Action cinema thrives on chaos. Explosions, collapsing sets, car chases through crowded streets, every frame teeters on the edge of danger. But for all the precision and control promised behind the scenes, some moments escape that safety net. Some vanish into the smoke. Throughout film history, there have been whispers. Stories traded in hushed tones between crew members long after the cameras stopped rolling. Of someone who was there during a massive explosion, an extra A technician, a stunt assistant, and then wasn't. No funeral, no obituary, no official statement, just absence. Quiet, unaddressed, and unnerving. Studios remained silent. Reports vanished. Insurance claims never mentioned them. On record, everything was fine. But if you ask the people who were there that day, many will say the same thing. Something wasn't right. In some cases, there were rumors of exhaustion, sudden resignations, or spontaneous walk-offs. In others, people were seen just moments before an explosion, standing too close, wearing something they shouldn't have been. And after the blast, no one could confirm their presence again. Some productions hired so many extras, their absence wasn't even noticed until weeks later. Some never noticed at all. Was it negligence, a cover-up, or something more deliberate? Today we're counting down 15 action films where someone on set, an extra, a crew member, or a background player, never returned after a major scene. These aren't confirmed deaths. There are no coroner's reports. Just a disturbing pattern that runs through the cracks of cinematic history. Because when the dust settled, someone was missing. And what was lost when the smoke cleared? Why didn't anyone look for it? Drift, 1991. The scene called for smoke. What it got was a vanishing. Drift was plagued by delays, rewrites, and a cursed production reputation. The final day of filming involved a beach explosion, symbolic cinematic cleansing. Extras were spaced across the dunes, dressed in post-apocalyptic rags. The weather was perfect. The detonation massive. Wind carried the black smoke far inland. And in that moment, something disappeared. One woman, playing a scavenger, is visible in early takes, tattered shawl limping, carrying a prop bundle. She walks to a marked point, turns, and waits for her cue. In the take that made the film, she is seen turning back toward the camera, as if reacting to something off-screen. Then the smoke hits. After the cut, she was gone. The assistant director called roll check. Her name wasn't on it. Props confirmed no bundle was returned. Makeup had no record of applying dirt patterns to her face. One camera op remembered her clearly. He even joked about how she looked too real. But no agency claimed her. No person fitting her description was ever found. Later in post-production, the team enhanced the audio during the blast. Beneath the roar, there's a single whisper. It says, "I was never supposed to be seen." Static burn, 2005. The flames rose. So did the question, who was that man? The final fire sequence in Static Burn involved a subway car explosion. Claustrophobic, tight, and full of chaos. Dozens of extras filled the frame, crammed into a fake train car, moments before it burst into flame. Evacuation protocols were rehearsed. Everyone had a path. When the shot wrapped, one man never exited. Wardrobe claimed they never outfitted him. The assistant director didn't recall placing him. And surveillance footage from outside the train car showed no one matching his appearance entering the set. In playback, he's seen sitting calmly in the corner, not reacting, not blinking. As the explosion erupts, he doesn't flinch. The flame rolls over him. When the crew opened the train shell, he wasn't there. Even more disturbing, the editor isolated frames of his face and found it appeared twice. Once in the foreground, once reflected simultaneously in the train window, but facing the opposite direction. To this day, that moment is unedited in the final film. Most audiences never notice, but those who do always ask, who was that man, and what was he waiting for? Midnight Siege, 1984. The set was locked. The list wasn't. Filmed entirely on a closed soundstage in Prague, Midnight Siege was designed for tight control. The scene in question involved a building implosion at midnight, an indoor model rigged with mini-charges, dust cannons, and collapsing walls. No one outside the core crew was allowed in. Yet playback shows something else. Just before the detonation, a figure can be seen walking between two lighting rigs. Not a crew member, not a cast member, not even part of the effects team. The figure stops, turns to the camera, and blurs into the smoke. After the take, security was questioned. No one had broken in. The call sheet showed no discrepancies. But when the camera crew reviewed the raw reel later that night, they couldn't find the frame again. The footage had been overwritten. The tapes labeled incorrectly were lost in transit. One gaffer refused to return to set. He claimed he saw something that didn't belong to the film or to this world. He died in 1991, never having spoken about it again. Whoever or whatever was in that shot left no shadow, no reflection, and no trace. Dust Protocol, 2008. The explosion was massive. The roll call was silent, set deep in the Moroccan desert. Dust Protocol staged one of its biggest sequences at an abandoned military testing ground, a caravan ambush featuring practical fireballs, overturned trucks, and over 60 extras. Production kept poor records. Locals were hired informally, some paid in cash, most without waivers. One man dressed in desert garb with no speaking lines was placed beside a burning tanker for visual effect. He's visible in early takes, turning, gesturing, clearly reacting to something behind the camera. But on the take that made the final cut, he's missing. No one saw him leave. His costume was never returned. And when a production assistant finally asked about him, a producer replied, "Don't look too closely. This isn't that kind of film." Rumors swirled of the man being a refugee or a drifter seeking work. The fireball that went off near his mark was bigger than anticipated. Some believe he was simply too close. Others think he was never supposed to be there to begin with. But in one publicity, still released briefly, then pulled, a blurred figure is seen running behind the explosion, halfway turned toward the lens, like he's about to speak. He never did. Urban Siege, 1997. The rooftop collapse was planned, the disappearance was not. Urban Siege filmed one of its final scenes atop a condemned apartment complex in Queens. The story called for a rooftop shootout, followed by an explosion that sent debris flying across neighboring buildings. Dozens of extras were hired as fleeing residents. One of them, an elderly man with a noticeable limp, was positioned near the edge of the blast radius. Crew remember him joking about how he'd done this before back in '84. But when the stunt triggered, part of the rooftop gave way earlier than planned. Dust clouded the lens. The director called cut, and the man was gone. At first, they thought he'd fallen. But rescue teams found no trace. No ID, no family contact. The casting agency denied sending anyone over 60. Later, in an interview, a boom operator recalled the man saying something strange before the shot. "If this goes wrong, maybe they'll finally notice." Some believe he was never hired, just wandered in. Others say he had unfinished business with someone on set. But the rooftop never rebuilt. And his story, like the building, remains in ruins. Detonation Point, 2014. The fire was contained. The panic was not. Detonation Point was a slick, tightly edited action film, lauded for its realistic use of fire sequences. In one critical scene, an abandoned hospital explodes from the inside as a SWAT team rushes out. The fireball was controlled, filmed in slow motion, and meant to engulf the hallway, choreographed to the second. The crew used a mix of professionals and real first responders as extras. Among them was a man listed only as S. Ames. His application was handwritten, his gear was self-brought. And in rehearsal, he stood out too quiet but followed every cue perfectly. On the shooting day, Ames was assigned a run path through smoke. But during playback, he's seen stepping off his mark toward the fire. The fire suppression system didn't activate in time. When the take ended, his helmet and vest were found charred in the corner. No body. No movement. The official explanation: equipment misplaced. No injury reported. But a fire safety officer later admitted that someone locked the hallway doors just before the scene. No one took credit. No one was blamed. Ames' real identity was never confirmed. And in the final edit, the hallway shot is gone, replaced by CGI flames and stock crowd reactions. Why was a man who didn't officially exist so clearly visible? Until he wasn't. Iron Pulse, 1989. The shot was meant to be background noise. Instead, it was silence. Iron Pulse, a low-budget Cold War thriller, filmed a major crowd sequence at an abandoned train station in Bulgaria. The scene: military tanks roll past panicked civilians. Explosives detonate around them, just enough to shake the ground. One local extra, a teenage boy believed to be 16, was placed near a collapsing barricade. The cue was simple: run. Left on signal, don't look back. The cameras rolled, the debris fell. It worked perfectly until the director noticed something missing in playback. The boy never ran. Slow-motion footage shows him looking confused, then stepping forward directly beneath the collapsing scaffolding. His face vanishes behind dust and smoke. The cut moves away. His name wasn't on the final payroll, and none of the translators on set could identify who brought him in. He's not in the group photo taken at WRAP, not in any other shot. Years later, a journalist researching Cold War-era productions found an anonymous note. One boy never came home, his mother still asks. No confirmation, no closure. Just one shot where silence hit harder than the blast. Firewall Extraction, 2011. The security footage was deleted. The memory wasn't. Firewall Extraction had one of the most expensive set pieces, filmed on a repurposed oil rig in the North Sea. A fireball explosion was timed to engulf the upper deck, while extras in jumpsuits escaped below. A complex coordination of practical fire hydraulic lifts and moving platforms. One extra, only known as rig number 14 on the schedule, was part of the stairwell group. Footage from the first angle shows him gripping the railing, looking over his shoulder, seemingly unsure of his cue. On the second angle, he's not visible. After the take, some extras mentioned a guy who slipped before the bang, but in the confusion and rush to reset it, was brushed off. Later, when the assistant director asked to review security footage from the rig's onboard cams, it was mysteriously blank, between 12:03–12:08, the exact moment of the explosion. That 5-minute gap has never been explained. The production company issued a statement. All safety protocols followed. No personnel reported missing. But a VFX intern who leaked a portion of the previs rehearsal mentioned that rig number 14 didn't match anyone hired by casting. He was a walk-on. So who was he? A plant, a mistake, a ghost, or a man who vanished in a flame? And in the paperwork, Terminal Velocity, 1995. The stunt was clean, the air wasn't. In Terminal Velocity, a skydiving-themed action thriller, one sequence required a parachute malfunction simulation filmed from multiple angles, blending real jumps with green screen trickery. For authenticity, the production hired experienced jumpers for background fills and aerial inserts. One of them, registered under the alias Jack D, boarded the drop plane in the morning shoot. There's a log of him checking gear. Even a shot of him laughing with the aerial coordinator on the tarmac. But when the plane landed after the sequence, he wasn't on it. At first, the crew assumed he'd landed off mark. But when the chase helicopter reviewed aerial footage, a figure was seen drifting far from the planned drop zone, then suddenly tumbling, limbs flailing. No parachute deployed. The crew watched in silence. Search efforts were limited. The studio halted inquiries, citing liability fears. And when local rangers later found parachute fragments and a torn ID tag in a dry canyon, the evidence disappeared into legal paperwork. The official report, all personnel accounted for. The movie released without delay. But ask the jump coordinator, now retired, and he'll say, "We knew he didn't make it." But nobody wanted a dead man attached to the marketing. Redline Panic, 2002. The extras were real. The exit wounds weren't supposed to be. During the filming of Redline Panic, an underground car heist thriller with big ambitions and little oversight, there was a nighttime set piece involving a car flipping midair into a gas station, triggering a wall of fire. Over 40 extras were used to simulate bystanders. Most were hired through a third-party agency that later claimed the list was incomplete due to a system error. That became a problem when a man who was seen standing near the edge of the crowd in rehearsal was no longer visible after the take. The shot was successful, visually spectacular. But when playback was reviewed, someone noticed an object flying through the smoke, a blurred figure in a coat tumbling in the background. The moment was fast distorted by the heat waves. Some dismissed it as debris. Others, including a VFX supervisor, insisted it had limbs. No one claimed injury. No one filed a complaint. But days later, local news reported an unclaimed body found near the city limits, burned beyond recognition. The time of death matched the shooting schedule. No link was ever made officially, but crew members still talk about it, especially one assistant who reportedly quit days later and never worked again. What happens when a fictional accident mirrors a real one too closely? And why does everyone pretend it didn't? Zero Bullet in '85. The explosion went right. The extras didn't. Shot in Manila, on a shoestring budget, Zero Bullet aimed to be the Filipino answer to Die Hard. The climax featured a full building detonation, real dynamite, real debris, and no CGI. Dozens of extras were hired locally. Many off the street paid cash to scream and run from the scene. After the first take, panic broke out. A runner yelled that someone was down in the dust. But by the time the smoke cleared, no one could confirm who. There were no names, no roll call, just burned shoes and a torn scarf near the blast radius. One behind-the-scenes photographer captured a frame of a woman in a red dress standing too close to the building seconds before ignition. Her arms are raised like she's trying to wave someone down. She's not in the next frame. Crew members said nothing. The director, known for finishing fast and cheap, declared the shot perfect and moved on. When later asked about the red-dressed woman, he simply replied, "There was no red dress in the script. That moment was edited out." The camera pans away just before the explosion, leaving only the sound of it echoing through the street. So who was she? A local extra, or someone who stepped into the frame by mistake and never left? White Storm Protocol, 1999. He laughed before the blast. No one heard him after. White Storm Protocol was filmed in a decommissioned power plant in Eastern Europe, a grim backdrop perfect for its post-Cold War plot. The scene, a bomb detonates beneath a stairwell as soldiers descend. A dozen extras were positioned in combat gear, running through smoke and debris. One of them, identified only by his nickname Milo on the call sheet, was seen joking with the pyrotechnics crew before the take. Witnesses say he was nervous, trying to lighten the mood. The explosion was massive, larger than planned. When the cameras cut, 10 extras returned to the staging area. One didn't. The crew assumed he bailed. Maybe injured, maybe overwhelmed. But when they tried to confirm, no agency had record of a Milo on file. The production had outsourced the casting locally. No ID, no contract, just cash. One assistant director claimed to have seen him just before the shot, looking up as if confused by the countdown. Later in the editing bay, there's a blink and you miss it frame, a man standing still as fire engulfs the stairwell. It's not a stunt. It's not part of the choreography. Some say the fireball distorted his image. Others say it erased him entirely. No search, no press. Just another casualty buried beneath bad lighting and better insurance. Steel Vengeance, 2006. They said it was a dummy. The playback said otherwise. Steel Vengeance had a modest budget and a tight shooting schedule. Its director, known for cutting corners, relied heavily on unpaid volunteers for crowd scenes. One complex sequence involved a fiery car crash on a highway overpass, requiring over 50 extras, dozens of stunts, and a fast-paced single take. During rehearsals, everything checked out. But during the actual shot, one of the bodies flung from the crash appeared too real. It hit the ground wrong, limp, heavy. A stunt supervisor asked if it was the new high-res dummy. The prop master shook his head. "We didn't use the dummy today. Budget." Footage review showed a person in civilian clothing, not stunt gear, on the edge of the blast radius. The fall looked uncontrolled. The body rolled, didn't move, and was never seen again. When questioned, production claimed it was a test prop and dismissed concerns. But when post-production attempted to isolate the frame for editing, the team noticed the expression on the figure's face. It wasn't blank. It was shocked, alive. No report, no inquiry, and no one from the volunteer list that day ever stepped forward claiming they were that person. The clip was shortened, cropped, the fall cut out. What are we seeing in that moment? An illusion done too well, or a casualty quietly erased? Delta Red, 1993. A blast that changed the script and erased a person. Filmed in rural Arizona, Delta Red was a straight-to-video action flick that embraced the chaos of practical effects. One of the film's set pieces required a jeep to flip mid-air and land in flames, while extras scattered from a fake military outpost. Cameras rolled the stunt was perfect, but the mood on set quickly soured. A grip claimed to have seen a sound technician newly hired young nervous, setting up boom mics near the wreckage minutes before the explosion. After the shoot, no one could locate him. The call sheet had his name E. Talbot. But when the producers tried to contact the agency, there was no such person listed. His contract was unsigned, his equipment unaccounted for. Rumors spread. Some said he was never real, just a name someone added to fill a position. Others whispered that Talbot might have wandered too close, mistaken the cue, and been consumed by the fireball. Still without a body, there was no case. The most disturbing part: in the final audio of the scene, there's a brief, low-pitched scream. It wasn't scripted. It wasn't matched to any actor's movement. And no one on set claimed it. Fans online have dissected the scene frame by frame, trying to identify a face, a shadow, any trace. But Talbot, if he existed, vanished without a trace. Was it an accident or a ghost layered into celluloid? Strike Force, 1981. He wasn't in the next shot, and no one asked why. Strike Force was meant to be just another gritty cop drama, set against the backdrop of urban decay. Filmed in the outskirts of Detroit, the production prided itself on authenticity. Real locations, real chaos, and real explosions. One such scene involved a controlled demolition of a burned-out warehouse. It was rehearsed multiple times. The stunt team gave the green light. Action was called. Footage shows dozens of extras running from the building as it ignites behind them. But after the blast during the reset for a second take, a problem surfaced. A wardrobe assistant noticed one of the background actors, a man wearing a torn leather jacket, was no longer among the crowd. His name wasn't recorded. No agency claimed him. His face didn't match any casting forms. Some on set believed he was a local drifter hired last minute. Others said they'd seen him near the pyrotechnics rig minutes before detonation. The crew delayed shooting for hours looking through the debris, but no body was found, and the director insisted they move on. The footage stayed in the final cut. To this day, that man's presence exists only in a single wide shot, sprinting toward the camera just before the explosion. No one remembers his name. No one filed a report. But someone once asked, years later during a podcast interview, "How do we lose a human being on camera and not notice?" Dead Zone Protocol. Unreleased. No one knows who filmed it or why. There is one film that never made it to theaters. No IMDb page, no credits, no trailer. Just a name whispered on industry forums: Dead Zone Protocol. According to rumor, it was a privately funded indie project shot over 2 years somewhere in South America. A found-footage-style action horror hybrid involving paramilitary missions and supernatural forces. Most dismissed it as myth until a short, corrupted clip surfaced on a dark file-sharing network in 2017. In the clip, a building explodes. Dust floods the camera. And in a single frame paused at just the right moment, a figure can be seen walking calmly into the fireface, clearly visible. Internet sleuths enhanced the image. What they found was even stranger. The man's face matched a missing stuntman from 2002. Whose body was never recovered after a pyrotechnic accident in Mexico. The resemblance was exact, but Dead Zone Protocol was supposedly filmed in 2014. There are no leads, no confirmed crew, no actor lists. The clip was taken down within days, and all mirrors of it vanished. The only person who claimed to have seen the full film, a sound editor, who said it ended with a black screen and this text, "Some things stay missing because they were never meant to return." Action films celebrate destruction. We cheer when buildings collapse, when flames chase heroes down narrow hallways, when explosions paint the sky with chaos. But beneath the spectacle lies a truth rarely spoken. Real people stand behind those moments. Some of them never leave the frame. The 15 stories you've just heard aren't part of marketing campaigns. They don't appear in press junkets or commentary tracks. They live in the margins between takes inside smoke under forgotten credits. Vanishings that were never officially acknowledged, but never fully forgotten. And maybe that's the most unsettling part, because in a world where everything is filmed, edited, and archived, how does someone simply disappear on camera and no one says a word? Now we turn to you. Which of these stories unsettled you the most? Do you believe these were tragic oversights, deliberate silences, or something stranger? Let us know in the comments. And if you want more stories hidden behind the lens, subscribe to Darkroom Cinema. Like, share, and keep watching, because sometimes the frame reveals more than it hides.